We Are So Not Straight would like to acknowledge that the recording of this podcast takes place on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. Welcome to We Are So Not Straight,
the podcast where two drag sisters talk about everything curvy, swervy, and crooked.
We are your hosts, Michaela
and DJ, and
we are so happy you're tuning in.
Y'all, okay, let's just go.
A new season and we're still not any better.
Yeah, it's a new season. Welcome to season 3. We're here. We made it. I don't know how. This is like, this podcast is like that clip of the washing machine that they turn on, and as it runs, it just falls more and more apart.
Literally, I feel like I keep saying, I say this all the time, like I say, like, we're a mess, but that's why you keep coming back, and that's why you love us, but like, honestly, that's the truth. We are absolutely 110% a mess.
Alexa, play I'm a Mess by BB Rexa.
Would have been really funny if we had an Alexa that actually, like, just, like, booted up.
I have a Google Home.
Yeah, see, we're just gonna avoid that.
Well, I have my AirPods in, so when if anyone's listening to this, like, at home, though, and we activated your Alexa. Anyway, have fun listening to that amazing, amazing song. Anyway, we are here for season 3, and we decided to kind of not like switch it up, but we decided to blend kind of season 1 and 2 into one thing.
But before we get into that, we just want to clarify a couple of things. We have a good little housekeeping list that we just need to go over because it's very important that we get these things dealt with before we get into the fun of the podcast.
Yeah. So first off, if we ever talk about anyone's drag, or like someone's art or something, we just want to say that drag is art and art is subjective. So if we judge based on if it's like the category that has been presented.
Yeah, and all forms of art are valid. So that means that we are not judging anybody on any type of art because, like we said, everything in art is valid.
Mm-hmm. And secondly, all opinions in this podcast are our opinions and our opinions alone.
Yep, that is true. Also, we just wanted to clarify one more thing about this specific episode of the podcast. We are going to be discussing a television show that has a character in it that is played by the wonderful Elliot Page. At the time of the filming of this show, Elliot Page had not transitioned yet, so his character is female in the show and is used she, her pronouns. So if you do hear us referring to Elliot Page's character, which her name is Shauna, if you hear us referring to Shauna, we are referring to Shauna the character. We are not referring to Elliot Page. If we are referring to Elliot Page, we will be using the proper pronouns, which are he, him. Okay? I think that covers it.
Yeah, no, it does. Also, so the show that we cover does kind of, the topic should be openly talked about because they are important, but some people, just have experiences, and some people just, they get a little, just like, some conversations are a lot. So there are topics of like transphobia, and just like there are some rough family dynamics kind of in there, and
some conversation of medical issues of HIV and AIDS, discussion of those kind of things. So if that is something that you are sensitive towards, either, obviously, we respect the fact that if you need to not listen to this episode, that is perfectly fine. There are parts of the episode that do not talk about that at all. So if you want to skip over those parts, that is perfectly fine as well. However, we do understand that if you can't listen to this episode of the podcast because of those things, we get it.
Also, due to the nature of the show, we will be dropping resources and everything like that. So, if you are seeking something along that route, we will have resources in the show notes below.
Yeah, we really wanted to, with this season of the podcast, I think one of our main goals is to be able to open those conversations that a lot of people skip over. And so there's going to be a lot of episodes this season that's going to have trigger warnings on it. So just make sure that you are checking in with yourself and, you know, working and making sure that your mental health is okay and that you are, this is your daily reminder to take your medication.
Drink water.
And drink your water. So
eat food.
Eat
Make
food,
sure you've
take
got like
care
a
of
good,
yourself.
decent meal.
But please understand that there will be some topics being talked about in our podcast from now on that may cause some trigger warnings.
From now on.
Oh my gosh,
Sorry.
not that. Not in the serious moment,
Sorry.
DJ.
It just, whenever someone says from now on, it was such a big meme. I hear Hugh Jackman just in my
DJ was
head.
like, I gotta add a little bit of humor into this like topic. Just, you know, whatever.
That's what I'm here for. That's why everyone loves me. Love is
Oh
a
my
strong
goodness.
word. Let's calm it down, but you know.
Love is a strong word.
So yeah, so we love kind of reviewing and talking and putting forth the stories and experiences and voices like we said before. But we also wanted to still incorporate our guests because that's really fun and you get a varied opinion and just really good conversation when you have people that you aren't like conjoined at the hip with.
Yeah, I just
So
wanted to also mention that this season, I know that every other
why did
our
we
last
both
two
do this?
seasons.
at
I don't
the
know.
same time?
We both decided right at the same time we needed to clasp our hands together. Stop. No, I was just about to say, I know that our last two seasons we had a guest every single episode. DJ and I feel with the matter of the topics that we are going to be talking about that we would like to talk to people who we have specific connections with, who we feel comfortable having these conversations with, and who have and who feel comfortable having those conversations with us as well and being able to have that open dialogue. So we are very carefully picking and selecting who we are asking for this season of the podcast. So there will not be a guest every week. The plan is to do a guest like this episode, which you will find out who our guest is. Well, you probably already know because you read the title, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're going to do a guest, and then DJ and I are each going to pick a TV show to share with each other, and then hopefully we'll be able to go in that kind of order. So guest DJ Michaela, guest DJ Michaela, or guest Michaela DJ, whichever way we decide to
Whichever one. So, I think that kind of gets everything out of the way. Anyways, as Michaela said, you read the title, which we'll get to our guest in a minute. But the show that she asked us that we are discussing is called Tales of the City. Now,
Yes.
Maya requested a moment in episode 4, so we just kind of wanted to do a little like speed rundown, like a hot seat kind of review. So we don't get into it and everyone's like, who's Marianne? Like, you know,
yes,
that
exactly. So without further ado, let's go over to our little quick recap of what happened in episode 1 to 3 of Tales of the City so that you will be caught up and we can get into episode 4.
Okay, so starting off with episode 1.
Marianne and her husband Robert return to a place in San Francisco called Barbary Lane, which is owned by a 90-year-old woman named Anna.
So with Marianne coming back, she's welcomed by everyone but Brian. However, emotions are a little weird because of family tension.
We are introduced to the entire crew of Barbary Lane, consisting of Michael and Ben, Jake and Margot, Shauna, Annie and Raven, which are the twins, as well as Shauna's dad, Brian.
Shauna has left the party before Marianne arrives and then comes back and is a little like, whoa, why is she here? Because she believes that Mary Ann is her real mother who abandoned her as a 2-year-old.
Bob the drag queen also makes several cameos as Ida Best and is Shauna's employer.
And is the best character in this television show, because god damn it, it's Bob the drag queen. So then we are introduced to this girl, who we're just calling Camera Girl. She has a name, but she's always holding a camera, so we're calling her Camera Girl. We're introduced to Camera Girl, who is making a documentary about Barbary Lane and its residents.
Yes, and Shauna takes a liking to Camera Girl, and they end up hooking up in the back alley of the bar that is run by Ida Best.
Yeah, it's just... Anyway, so in the end, we kind of get thrown our first plot twist. So we find out that Anna is trans between a conversation of her and Jake, and Anna receives an ominous, threatening letter.
Yes, so then we move on to episode 2, and Anna meets a suspicious man. We call him Suspicious Man because he is very suspicious, and he is very yeah, we just don't trust him.
He's weird. He calls Anna Annie. It's weird. Anyway, so we find out Michael is HIV positive.
Yeah, Marianne decides to stay in San Francisco. There's a really weird scene where she gets out of a taxi when she's on her way to the airport. Don't ask.
Her suitcase breaks and she has like 3 wheels and she's just trudging along. So then we also find out that Margot and Jake are kind of in a rough spot in their relationship because Jake is trans and Margot is kind of not getting it.
She's having a hard time. Having a hard time. Michael invites Marianne to brunch unbeknownst to Ben, and Ben basically was talking about how he didn't want Marianne at the brunch, and then all of a sudden Marianne appeared at the brunch.
She stopped in, stepping on everyone's feet. Just so like somewhere along in the bitterness, like we get to trivia with Ben and his coworkers, and like there's this guy named Flacco. He's important later. It's just when we meet him.
Yes. Brian is hung up on Marianne. It's actually really obvious because every single person in his phone on his like dating apps looks like Marianne.
Like they're all blonde and like older.
Super awkward. And Sean is like, "What the heck, Dad?" But anyways, not the point. Ren, this is when we meet Ren, which is Brian's best friend, I guess, encourages him to go on a date.
So Marianne drags herself and her busted ass suitcase, which is now missing 2 wheels, back to Barbary Lane to try and talk to Shauna, but ends up with Anna because Shauna couldn't come to the phone right now. Why? Because she's dead. Oh no, I'm kidding. No, Shauna just wasn't home, and Marianne wasn't there to talk to her.
Very that. So then Jake ends up going on a date with a guy, and who is that guy, you may ask? Yeah, from Grindr, and who is that guy, you may ask? It's the aforementioned Flacco, and yeah, they hang out.
And again, Margot is like really struggling to like accept Jake's transition, and Jake ends up on Grindr because he is experimenting with like being gay, and Margot is like, no, like I miss when we were lesbians, which like, ew, like no, Margot, Jesus Christ. Anyway.
Yes. So Brian goes out on a date with a lady, and basically the lady says that she's been out of her relationship or divorced for 6 months?
7.
I think it was. Yeah, like 6 or 7 months. Meanwhile, he basically explains that he's still hung up on Marianne, and the lady leaves. So that doesn't go so well for Brian.
And then the waiter comes with the food. Like she left.
Super awkward. Awkward moment.
Oh God, it's so bad. So Shauna goes to some other hookup, which is a threesome, and Ren and Brian also end up screwing each other. Everyone is just screwing each other at the end of this episode. So there's like a 10-minute sex scene. And I was just sitting there like,
yeah, exactly. So finally, Shauna comes home, and Marianne goes to tell her about the fact that she's actually not her biological mother and that she's adopted, but she chickens out and she doesn't actually tell her. She actually ends up talking about how Shauna used to be obsessed with Peter Pan, and it is this very cute moment that happens between the two of them, and it's when we start to see their relationship develop.
For the start of episode 3, there's like a burst pipe, and everyone is just wet. Like everyone is just... Because no one knows how to fix. How many gays does it take to try and fix a busted pipe?
Yes. So then we find out that now Anna has received another one of those ominous letters, which, is really awkward because we don't know what's happening there, but that's fun.
Literally, I don't know what Anna could be a fraud for, but okay. So Marianne is served with divorce papers.
Yep. Yeah, Jake and Margot end up going to a gender reveal party at Jake's old house for Jake's sister.
Yeah, that's fun. And so we're back at Anna, and the pipe is finally fixed, and she receives a property transfer notice, and there's like a scream moment where there's like a modulated voice on the phone and is like, "Give me your property." I don't know.
Yeah, it's super creepy. It's like the beginning scene in Scream, and it's super creepy. Not a fan. Michael runs into his ex-boyfriend Harrison at the clinic. There's an awkward meeting between Ben and Harrison, and yeah, super awkward.
Harrison is wearing a cheap ass leather outfit. Red flag. So Margot is kind of offended over her and Jake's differing opinions on having kids. God damn it, Margot. Okay.
Literally. So in order to blow off some steam, Margot goes and takes out her sketch pad and starts sketching a picture of Jake. And upon further look, we realize that she has eliminated all of the features that make him trans, which is really awkward and definitely not something that should have happened.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, god damn it, Margot. Anyway, back to Shauna and Camera Girl. No, they're not fucking this time. They are visiting, like, it's like a condemned, old, built, it was like an old diner that, like, an iconic, like, trans peaceful protest happened at, so they're, like, soaking in the history down there.
Yes. Oh, and also while this is happening, Ren and Brian become more serious, which is really interesting because Ren was the best friend, and now they're hooking up, which is super weird.
I don't know. I thought Brian was going to be gay too, and then it was like, oh, all right. So Anna signs the property transfer and doesn't tell anyone.
Yeah, I mean, she was being threatened, so I kind of understand why she did it. Raven and Ani put on a modern art performance. It was very weird and very strange, and if you ever go and watch any part of this episode, you should probably go check that out because it's real weird.
they look like the hot dog fingers from Everything Everywhere All at Once, and there's paint and it's weird.
Yeah.
Jake and Flacco finally hook up, which is really cute because like
Finally.
I was like, yay, that was really cute.
We were waiting for it to happen, but you knew there had to be some sort of resolution with
Mhm.
Margot and Jake. And so now we've gotten to that point where it's just like, this is fine. After Jake gets back from this hookup, he finds the portrait that Margot had been drawing in the trash can in the bathroom and confronts her, and they end up breaking up.
Yeah, it was a long time coming. He had it coming. He had it coming. He only had Margot to blame. That part. So, and then to end off episode 3, Anna walks out. Everyone is gathered in the courtyard, and she's like, "I'm telling Barberry Lane, and good luck."
We are so excited to welcome back one of our greatest friends from the podcast, just been a great person overall, and one of our favorite people, Mya Foxx, is back on the podcast, everybody.
What's up, babies? I'm so excited to be back.
With good Wi-Fi this time.
Woo!
With good Wi-Fi, okay? Listen, we've entered the 21st century on the East Coast. We don't dial up anymore.
Dial
We're
up.
good to go.
AOL.
I paid my bill.
Jesse, get off the phone. Yeah, very bad.
For real, they said you had enough megabytes. No, thank you. Anyway.
They said that's the end of that.
Spectrum is quivering.
Oh.
Spectrum is like,
no. Oh. We are so excited to
loud.
have you back. We've been talking about having you back for like the whole season of season 2, and then we were like, how are we going to figure out how to get Mya back on the podcast? And then here you are. So we're very excited about this.
I'm so excited. I'm sorry I reacted like that, but my drag mother just tried to FaceTime me and my whole screen just started freaking out. I was like, oh no, not
the drag mom.
You're like, not the time.
The technical difficulties.
I'm very known for having my phone go off during this podcast. So
all
you're
the time.
fine.
All the time.
Okay, we're good. We're in the clear.
Okay.
We're good. We're great. We're lovely.
Okay.
Go ahead, DJ.
What's my line? I don't, girl.
What is your line?
I don't know.
The line
Great,
is
good.
Mya, you look beautiful. That's
Mya,
the line.
you look amazing, stunning, gorgeous, cunty,
God.
angel. This hair, it's giving me life. Oh my, wait, you have like little like neon yellow in there. That's cute.
Yeah. Mm.
Lift
She wasn't
it.
playing around. Listen, I'm telling you, we had to throw it all the way back to season 1. This is my elimination hair from Call Me Mother season 2, but we are reclaiming it. We're reclaiming
Yes.
it.
Wait, what look did you get eliminated in?
Oh my
The disco
gosh.
orange.
The disco one. I
Yeah.
knew that.
Okay, so for the podcast you guys actually wanted to come listen to, as you know, not as you know, because this is the first episode. So for season 3, we kind of wanted to combine our season 1 and 2 and give y'all a full experience. So we asked a lovely guest to pick out a television moment that spoke to them, and we are here to get into that episode.
Yes. Before we get into the episode, Mya, can you tell us a little bit more about why you picked this specific episode of this show?
Okay, so I chose Tales of the City, the new version. So for y'all who don't know, there was an older version of Tales of the City. I believe that came out in the 90s, I want to say.
Ooh.
And what's actually interesting is some of the characters that are in the new version were in the old version.
I saw that. Like some of them have the character thing like on Google, and it's like both.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think like Anna, Mary Ann, and Michael were all in the old one. There's a few of them. So anyway, so it's kind of a continuation of the old version. But yeah, so I chose, what did I choose? Was it episode 3 or 4?
Episode 4.
Episode 3. Episode 4. So with episode 4, the reason why I chose it is because Tales of the City, there's kind of this like theme of like new and old happening throughout. So you got this old batch of queer people, you've got this new batch of queer people, and they're kind of cohabitating. There's things that happen, there's drama that happens, there's some political things that happen in this episode, and I think it's really, really interesting because you get to see 2 different perspectives. So I think there's a lot to kind of unpack, and on top of it, there's some funny moments. Bob the drag queen is in this episode.
Bob the drag queen. Oh my god, if
right?
Where here is quivering in its grave right now. Like,
Did it get
like
canceled? No.
No, I don't think so. Did
No.
it?
Oh,
it
okay,
might
okay,
have. Wait.
okay.
I don't think so.
I hope not.
This is not a PSA saying that it got canceled.
Where your
Just saying.
stocks dropped to 0 after Bob showed up on the show. No, okay, so as Maya said, she chose episode 4, and Michaela and I did like a mini little recap before this just to kind of introduce y'all to the characters, to everyone. So y'all have heard that, but let's get into episode 4, because this, in my opinion, this is when shit starts getting good.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, you wanted it?
I don't care. You can go first.
Okay, so because I've kind of become invested in the show, even though I didn't know what it was until Maya talked about it.
We're still as disorganized as season 1, Maya. There you go.
Something's never changed. I love how season 1 you're like, we're gonna work that out. We still need to work on that. 3 seasons later,
Nothing
girl.
has been worked out.
Nothing. We're not there. It wouldn't be us
The only
without
thing
it,
that's worked out
honestly.
is my Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi
Yes.
has been corrected.
Period.
Yeah,
Exactly.
she got that Spectrum. You should ask like your Wi-Fi company to like sponsor you.
Listen, if Blue Lobster hasn't sponsored me yet, the Wi-Fi company is not sponsoring me. I have been trying with this Blue Lobster. Listen, I have introduced people across Canada, across North America to the Blue Lobster, and they just decided to follow me like last month.
Do you
like,
guys
Oh
remember
my gosh.
when Blue Waffle was trending on like the internet?
I gotta go.
That's just,
I gotta go.
Maya's out.
Blue
She's like, I'm out.
Lobster.
I gotta go.
All right.
Like, I
Well,
can't.
it has been a lovely time. See you 2 years later. Have a good one. You know.
Oh my goodness. Okay, DJ, get into the episode.
So, in our little recap, Anna has just kind of announced that she is selling Barberry Lane, and the group assembles at Dee Dee's house to discuss what's going on, and they pass around this weird, like, cucumber dildo-y thing,
Literally.
to, like, try and
Yeah.
figure it out. It's literally cucumber.
It was like a talking stick, but a
Mm.
dildo. So there you go.
Yeah.
Love that.
That's Indigenous appropriation, and in the episode that I like, what is going on? Anyway, yes. Continue.
Wait, what? I zoned
Crazy.
out. Say that part again.
I'm being sarcastic. But
Oh.
the talking
It was
stick
a
is like an
sarcastic
Indigenous
comment.
thing. It's, yes.
Oh, sorry, I fully zoned out. I was reading the... Okay. Anyway.
He was reading notes. Nice. But yes, anyways, so they do this conversation about why they think this is happening kind of thing. What would you do if you all of a sudden found out that your chosen home was being sold?
Oh my God. Well, I think it's like they're so invested in it because it's not just a home, it's a community. Do you
It's
know
like
what I
a
mean?
place.
And
It's like
you-
a...
That's it. It's like a commune. Like,
Mm.
you know, you got these queers from all different backgrounds, different ages, all this kind of stuff. And they're happy, they're safe, they're secure at this place. So, I mean, to have that taken over from under you, that's not just like your landlord that's saying, like, get out and you move down the street. This is a part of their identity. So, I mean, if I was in their shoes, like, I'd be feeling pretty upset too. And, you know, I know like the characters start trying to figure out, like, how do we convince Anna to stay, or like, what's the real reason and stuff like that. So, I would totally be doing the exact same thing.
I mean, in this episode, kind of like Marianne is the only one that's like, you guys, what the hell? Everyone else is just like, all right, bye. But I would totally be like, y'all, something's not right here. I smell a stunt. Some creepy ass man who looks like Colonel Mustard from Clue is
Right?
feeling up on Anna. And like,
We literally
like,
call him
no
Creepy
one-
Man.
We do. We have names for
That's his
people like
name.
Camera Girl.
He is. Yeah. Yeah.
We love
Camera girl, creepy man.
Creepy man.
Camera
But
girl,
like
creepy
literally,
man.
okay. It like just Marianne was the only one, and Shauna kind of was secretly too, but we'll get to that. But like Marianne was really the only one who was like, guys, something isn't right, and everyone else. I mean, like I definitely see both sides. Like all good things do kind of have to come to an end. Like Anna is getting older,
Right.
but like the
Yeah.
situation is a little.
No, totally. And I
It's
think
sus. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think that the point is that yeah, Marianne is very concerned and stuff, and I think the others are concerned as well, but I think they've kind of realized that I think they think that she wouldn't be doing it without a reason for doing it. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of where they come
Fair.
together and being like, okay, well, there's really nothing we can do because she's made up her mind. This is kind of what it is. End all be all.
And when old people get something on their mind, ooh bitch, buckle in.
Forget it. reason and rationale go out the window once you turn 50. I feel like it's like, you know, if they say I want this or I said so, doesn't matter. You can't.
So you got one more
shit.
good year left. I love you. I'm so sorry. I love you. I'm so sorry.
DJ is on a roll over here. Now listen, before you read me, make your bed, baby. Okay, listen.
This is literally a glorified dog bed.
I cannot. Is that because you sleep in it?
Enough.
I gotta scream. I can't. See, we're getting too comfortable now. This is it. We know each other too well now.
I know.
I live.
Yes.
All right, next question.
All right, moving on. So the aforementioned creepy man that DJ and I call him, that looks like Colonel Mustard, Sam, makes another appearance in this episode, and we all don't trust him at this point. At least DJ and I did not trust him. We were all both like, "Who is this man, and why is he here?"
Why is Colonel Mustard in her house?
No, it's not correct. It's not correct. And calling her Annie, like he knows her like that.
I know.
Like, yeah.
The sun will come out tomorrow. Sorry.
Why?
I don't know.
Why me? Why is this my co-host? This is the question.
Michaela, you asked me to do this.
I did. That's true.
I was like, I didn't even want to be here.
You know, it just wasn't my opinion, wasn't my choice.
That's not my journey. That's not my spiritual reason. My seventh chakra actually is now out of alignment, so I'm leaving.
Oh my gosh. But yes, you know, anyway, so Creepy Man makes another appearance, and then we end up going over to Marianne, who is sitting on the bed.
At Dee Dee's house.
At Dee Dee's house, and she's overstayed her welcome as usual. But anyways, not the point.
When the gay assistant tells you you've overstayed your welcome, you have overstayed, bitch.
Girl, period. Yes.
But anyway, she's calling her soon-to-be ex-husband about their divorce and talking about this conversation about kind of where this is going, and she's having a hard time with trying to figure out if she's going to actually sign the papers or not.
No shame to Marianne. If I was her husband, I would divorce her too.
She's a little all over the place. She's a lot to handle. Yeah,
it's not that she's like a lot to handle. It's just like, if I had to listen to her talk about, I don't know, like whatever she talks about for like 7.5 minutes, I would be like, someone sedate me, please.
Yeah, small doses.
The actor is very good at her character. Like, I will just put that out there.
You're like, I am annoyed by you, not your character.
I'm annoyed by
you're doing a good job.
Oh, no, I'm annoyed by the character. Shit. But I'm gonna get canceled.
Well, we knew it was a matter of time, so, you know, whatever.
So, speaking of Dee Dee's house, Margot and Dee Dee are skinny dipping in the hot tub. And again, there's Titty. And I was just like, hi there.
Listen,
it's waving back at me.
We all love a bit. We love a bit of titty. Listen, we can't have like a gay or a queer TV program without some titty. Like, come on, let's be honest.
Love that
program.
Michaela was living, and I was sitting here like,
yeah. Right? DJ was not watching, but I definitely was. But we also realized, I think, between the two of them that there is definitely some sort of tension. Maybe
there's a lot of tension. Like, they are a lot.
You love
like
that.
Like, that was cute. I like really enjoyed that moment. I was like, oh, like, we found love in a hopeless
right?
place. You know,
they seem like a very like unlikely couple, but at the same time, like, it just works somehow. Like, there's this like a very like yin and yang kind of situation.
Yeah, totally.
But and I'm feeling for Margot, because I mean, go like from the previous episode, going through like the whole situation with the transition of their previous partner and stuff like that, and feeling very much like not the center of attention. And then you have this like rich white lady showing you all this attention. Like, it's like, hello.
Yeah. Why, yes, I will come into your house with that dildo cucumber thing on your mantle.
Yes.
So, Michael ends up meeting his ex in a previous episode, which red flag number 1. Don't do anything with your ex, please. I don't care. Like, but Michael ends up being invited to his ex's like next like house flipping project, love it or list it, like Hillary and David, like, oh, cute, that kind of moment, and they get to talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, And
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Ben at this point didn't really know the like history behind the two of them either, so I don't think that he
No.
had any idea kind of what this was meaning about them kind of hanging out again.
But
So
we know as the
But we knew.
audience, because it's like
We
a I'm
know.
God looking down kind of thing. So this is like a question. Like, do you think that like your ex could be forgiven, like in this situation? Like,
Ooh. No, I am a vengeful bitch. Okay,
mhm,
listen, I hold a grudge. I'll be honest. Like,
I love a
listen,
grudge.
I have a lot of patience. Do you know what I mean? Like, it takes a lot for me to get to a certain level. But once you break my trust,
Hmm.
it's like it's over. Like, it literally is over.
Keying
Like,
your
I have
car.
known for like. No, for real. And like, I don't need to go all crazy and stuff like that. And not just exes, but like friends and stuff. Like, you
Hmm.
break my trust, like, we're done. Like, I've cut people off. Like, I just don't have time for that. Do you know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
like you need a very special circumstance to like have somebody like come back into your life after that. And like, they need to show remorse. They need to
Hmm.
apologize. They need to be a better person, all those types of things. And like, at this point, like, we don't know anything about that with the ex. Do you know what I mean? He
Hmm.
just said, like, come on over for a dinner party. Like, I don't know about that. And I mean,
Yeah.
given that, like, he stood him up because like Michael was HIV positive. Like, I mean,
Wait,
come
okay,
on
so
now.
Michael is HIV. Okay, so this is like a main
Yes.
like plot point. HIV is a like very prevalent
Yeah.
topic in this show, and it's so important. And we'll get to it like later. Um,
Yeah.
but like I was confused on if Michael was HIV positive or Harry
Harrison.
Harrison was
Harrison.
HIV positive. I was like, who left
So
who?
they're both now. So Michael was HIV positive, and then Harrison left him because he was HIV positive.
Yeah.
And then later, Harrison contracted HIV, and now they're both
I
positive.
don't want to be
So
like
when he has a,
karma because it's like kind of shitty, but like kind of
but they
karma comes
said
in
that when he opened
there.
up the cabinet, Harrison was like, "Karma's a bitch," because it was like you
Literally.
left him because he was, unlovable, and now you're in the same scenario. Do you know what I
Literally, if
Yeah.
mean?
anyone tells you you are unlovable because of like something like that, whether it be like a disability or like something, please give me their address.
DJ
We
will
will
go for
find
them.
them. We will find them. I'm telling you. We'll talk more
But
about
yes.
the HIV stuff because we do need to get into that
Yes.
for sure.
We do get into that later in the episode. So, after that, we go back to Dee Dee and Margot in the hot tub.
Still just in the hot
And-
tub. How are they
Still in the
not
hot tub.
raisins? Pruned.
Listen,
Wrinkly-
overheated, like,
Literally. But we go back to them, and Dee Dee reveals to Margot that she is queer. And then Marianne comes and kills the vibe because she wants to go in the hot tub. and
Literally,
realizes that there's
Marianne
guinea pig in the
comes
hot tub.
out in her one-piece ruched Kohl's swimsuit and it just kills the vibe. It's just like, Marianne,
Right?
take a hint, girly pop.
Girl. And you wonder why she's getting divorced coming out in a bathing suit like that. Come
Literally, I was like,
Come on.
I was like, oh,
Not the ruched bathing suit.
ruched, one piece.
Not a white refrigerator. Not a ruched bathing suit. I'm dead. I can't.
Lord almighty.
Oh my god. Hold on, I need 2 seconds. I'm crying.
Okay.
Okay.
1, 2. You good?
Yeah.
Cool. So then we end up going back to Harrison and Michael in the house that Harrison is renovating. And I think it's still the house he's renovating, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
I think so. But anyways, they're walking around and kind of checking out all the rooms, and Michael gets curious and opens one of the cupboards, and inside we find the medication that proves that not only was Michael HIV positive, but now Harrison is HIV positive as well, which we did discuss a little bit earlier. But I think now is a good time to discuss about HIV and why it's important that people know about it.
Okay, first off, just like, please get tested. Please. It's like
100%.
It's free
Yeah.
for in most places. Like, it's mostly completely free. Like, just get tested and have your partner get tested, and yeah, it just everyone's gonna be happy, you know.
Listen, it's a step that everybody needs to take. Do you know what I mean? If you are a sexually active queer person, like, the recommendation is every 2 months. Do you know what I mean? Go get your test done. In Canada, I know it is free pretty much everywhere. And, there are things that, there's measures that we can use to protect ourselves, like, PrEP and condoms and all of those great things. And I think it's important that we take every step possible to be able to prevent HIV. And while there shouldn't be stigma if you are HIV positive, we should still take every precaution that we
Yeah.
can to try to protect ourselves, right? The other thing that I see, like, a lot of the times is, especially, if you're meeting a new partner or this or that, and oftentimes, somebody will say, well, I'm on PrEP, so we don't need to use protection or whatever. If you're just meeting somebody, it's like, how can you verify that information? Do you know what I mean? How do you know that
Yeah,
this other person
where's your
is
card?
taking that's what I mean. Like, how do you know that they're up to date on the medication? How do you know that they're taking it regularly? How do you know all that kind of stuff? And then we get into, like, all of the other STIs that you could potentially contract from an interaction like that. So, condoms, 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 condoms. Like,
Yes,
everybody needs to be
please.
using that for sure. And prevention is one thing for sure. But yes, if you find yourself that you are, HIV positive, get that medical, attention, seek out those resources. And there's so many things available for people now who are HIV positive. You take your medication, you can be undetectable, which is, honestly, there's no risk of transmitting the virus if you are undetectable. So, I think the world has definitely changed. But what I love so much about this show is it shows how the world was back in the 80s and 90s versus how it is today. So yeah.
Yeah, I think also, like, bringing up the stigma, it's like, I said this before, but, like, you are so not unlovable. Like,
100%.
it's just like, you're not, like, fucking spreading the Red Death, like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I get really
It's so
angry.
frustrating.
It's
There's
just
so
like,
much misconception, around it. Like, some of my best friends are HIV positive. Like, I have several people in my life that live very productive lives, that are healthy, that have loving partners. Some of them are single and still are able to have, sexual adventures and live their life and work and, like, do the thing and all that kind of stuff. But I was also, I was a board member for the AIDS Coalition in Nova Scotia for a long time. And, like, the amount of stigma that these people still face is unbelievable, especially outside of the queer community. Some people think if you have HIV, you're gonna die, you're dirty, like, all of these
I was
terrible
gonna
things.
say
And
that.
it's
It's like,
not that.
it's not
that.
like, okay, maybe before we had, like, I say modern medicine, but, like, maybe before we had all of this information, all of these resources, it was very scary, and it was a huge, I don't want to say problem, but it was, like, very scary for our community for a long time, and, like, no
Totally.
one fucking did anything about it except for our community. So, like,
Right.
now I think really, like, showing that and flipping that, like, it's not this life-threatening thing. It's not this fucking, like, death sentence like it was painted out to be. Like, that's so important, and I think you're right. The show does that so well.
So well. And the other thing when it comes to HIV, and obviously, people associate it primarily with the 2S LGBTQ plus community, but it is also a huge issue in the Indigenous community as well. So one of the largest rates or demographics that are affected by HIV is actually the Indigenous community as well, which obviously I'm a part of. And I think, again, it speaks to kind of getting that education out there, providing resources, and there's all kinds of, political, racial issues as to why that is the case in that community. But it is something that we need to continue to kind of educate people on and provide resources for, and all of those types of things as well.
Yep. Period.
Absolutely.
So we're kind of at, like, the, I don't want to say halfway point in the episode of, like, the television series, but we're kind of at, like, a oh my god, excuse me, a midway
turning point.
Yeah. So while Michael and his ex, which also I just want to say about Harrison, if anyone goes out dressed in cheap leather on the daily with a Hot Topic fucking belt chain, red flag, waving in the wind, just on the beach. Red flag. Like, my man, you couldn't have sprung for, like, a box leather, not something that looks like sheet plastic, but okay, anyway. So
he spent all this money on this renovation. I mean, like,
yeah, did it go to the house?
Bit away?
Did it go to that cabinet that you built? Because that was ugly too. Anyway, so
not the cabinet.
Literally that cabinet, he was like, this is gorgeous, and I was like, oh my god, like, birch like painted, like
Screaming.
landlord painted birch.
Classic
Just like,
DJ. I'm just saying.
anyway,
I just saw a cabinet. That's all I saw.
honey, I could find that at Home Goods next to the sign that says like the Lord only gives you what you can handle, you know. Anyway, so Ben is like in the closet area, and he just gets this bright idea to pull this pair of like Elton John orthopedic clogs off the shelf, and is kind of like snooping through. Um, he's kind of like snooping through Michael's stuff, which
Right.
so like the logistics of snooping, right? Like, I'm in a relationship, it's important to be honest, but like it's also kind of up to the person who is like HIV positive. Like it's up to the person to communicate that in the relationship. So like
Right.
what are our thoughts on like Ben kind of snooping and like that sort of thing?
So I'll be honest, like this hair might be big because it's full of secrets, but that's fine. No,
Gretchen Wiener's mother.
I can't. Exactly. Yeah, Maya Wieners. I can't. Maya Wieners. I love it.
So okay, I'm joining the house of Wieners.
Yes, we've got you. We will look after you. But yeah, no. When I was in my early 20s, like I don't want to say like I was a snoop. I had snooped a couple of times, and to be honest with you, there's a reason why I had snooped, and I had found something and confirmed my suspicions. Now that I'm older, it's like, do you know what? Like I give people the benefit of the doubt until like you give me a reason not to trust you. You're good. Do you know what I mean? Like I would never. I've been with my partner for 4 years. I would never go through his phone. I would never go through his stuff. Like that's his business.
Oh my god, the
you know
phone
what I mean?
thing. The girls who are like, "Let me see your phone. Are you texting that bitch Heather?" And it's like, well, yeah, maybe. If you're gonna act like this, Emily.
I'm like so straight up with him. Like I'll be like, "Oh, so and so messaged me, and like this is what had happened." Like you know what I mean? Like you have to have that like open dialogue. But I think they're very insecure in their relationship still. Like there's this age difference. Like they're still like they kind of started off very casual. Now it's turning into something. So I think there's still that like lack of trust. So I understand why he did it, but I don't necessarily think it's right. Like I don't think you should invade somebody's privacy because you're feeling a type of way.
Yeah.
Yeah, very that. I'm like.
No, I feel the same way. I'm like, in that case, it's one of those things like, I think when you were saying about like trust and honesty and stuff, like if you have that in a relationship, I don't see the reason why you would have to like do something like that. But in this case, they've only been dating for a little amount of time. There's an age difference there, which is already an insecurity. And so I think on top of that, not that it was right what Ben did, but I see why Ben did it.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah, very that. So then we cut back to Shauna, who is literally just like the second comedic relief of the show. So Shauna finds out Brian is seeing someone on her like little laundry escapade because he's like mopping the floor. She's like, "Oh my god, are you seeing someone?" And he's like, maybe." And it's like, she's like, "Can I do laundry?" Like I don't.
I'm good.
Shauna,
literally, I came over to do laundry, and now you're mopping the floor.
Like Shauna being just the driest, and I mean that in a good way. Like her face is just like someone could literally be like, "I love you," and she's just. I mean, it does. Like with Camera Girl, but
everything.
Like, she's just like,
Listen, Elliot Page is a G. Like I love Elliot Page. Elliot Page is from Halifax. Shout out to Elliot Page, and I love everything that like he's been in. Oh yeah, 100%. Like literally went to school down the road from where I live. Like I like pride and joy of Halifax.
That's so cool.
That's a good pride and joy to have. Just Elliot Page and 9th place diva me. Anyway, it's fine. 9th place diva.
I can't. I said that in Ottawa. I was like, did anybody watch Call Me Mother? There was like 2 people that, woo. Like, great. Clearly you did not watch the We Are So Not Straight podcast.
Yeah, you got Ottawa.
Obviously.
What the fuck is that bitch?
Come on, people.
Right? Dying.
Yeah.
But no, Elliot Page is it, and I love his character Shauna in this. And obviously, I believe this was before.
This was pre-transition.
Like, I think it was right at
we have like a little announcement in the beginning of our pod. We were like, because Shauna was referred to she in the show, we will use she, her
Right.
pronouns in the context of the show. However, when we are
Right.
discussing Elliot Page, we will, of course, use he, him.
Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. No, but the Shauna's character is great. Like I like, again, comedic relief. Like I'm always looking to Shauna to see what they're gonna say, like all of that kind of stuff for sure.
Yeah, totally. So after
Oh, I
this
hate this
little,
next note.
I was about to say, after this laundry excursion that we see happen, we go back to Dee Dee's house, and Margot.
Pruning.
Everybody at this point, everybody has left, and Dee Dee is in the house.
Right.
And there is a knock on the door, and it is Margot, because Margot came back to kiss Dee Dee, which I feel like all of us wanted to happen, and then it didn't, and I was so disappointed, and then it did, and I was like, okay, I'm okay now. This is
Michaela,
fine.
Yes.
literally, from the time they were in the hot tub, she's texting, they're gonna kiss. They're gonna kiss.
Yeah.
They're gonna kiss.
I said it
Yes.
several
God,
times.
shut up. Enjoy the show. Like, okay, we
Listen.
get it.
Just wait. There's all kinds of like queer loving going on. Like as
There
the
was
show
a
goes
long-ass,
on.
like, 15-minute sex scene, and Michaela and I got to it, and we just didn't text each other for that entire thing, because we were just like...
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
Yeah,
just
it
didn't
was
know what
great,
to say.
Yeah, we just kind of sat there like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this show like does the thing where they like go to each group of characters, so it's a little like explaining it out is a little weird. But we go back to Michael and Ben, and Michael is making a smoothie in the kitchen in his boxers, which. And
Hey.
so Michael has realized Ben was snooping because the Elton John clogs were the wrong way on the shelf. So Michael
No, you're
realized.
almost spitting your wine out in that process.
So
Not the
Michael,
Elton John clog.
the Elton John disco golden clogs that have orthopedic support. So yeah, Michael realizes that Ben was kind of snooping, but he asked him to go to a dinner party with Harrison and his friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This
which
is toxic,
already
girl.
just-
Like you can't
Literally.
be.
I said to Michaela, if everyone just broke up in this show, there would be no plot. Like, it would be over, roll the credits.
Like, here's what I don't understand. And, like, it's like, you know, you watch this for entertainment, right? But, like, this is what people do in real life.
Mhm.
Like, they try to sabotage each other. It's like, oh, you did this. I caught you in this. And instead of, like, having a conversation about it and, like, working it out, they're like, I'm going to get you and
I'm
put
gonna
you in
fucking-
it. Like, that's what people do. If people just, like, talked, said how you're feeling, like, you hurt me by this, or did you snoop? Like, let's have a
That's like
conversation
Jake and
about it.
Margot's
figure it out.
relationship. Like, they are just dancing around this one issue, and I'm like,
Oh my god, I can't. And like, it's funny. Like me and my personal life, my friends are like, "Oh, Maya, like you're so abrasive. Like I'm like, I just say what I mean. Like,
No,
I
bitch,
say
I'm
what I
honest.
want. I say what I mean. I call it out. Do you know what I mean? And like,
Mhm.
not in like a mean way, but it's like if you're saying like, "Did you like this?" Like, my answer is
I'm
no.
gonna say no, I didn't
you know
like
what I
it.
mean?
Like,
I didn't
if
like
I
it.
don't
It's
like
not-
it, I'm gonna let you know I don't like it. The end.
Exactly. Or you did something that upset me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I had a problem. There was like a friend of mine, a performer that was like acting a type of way at a show. I pulled them aside like recently, and I was like, "Hey, like, what's up?"
Yeah.
And it was like this huge thing. And it was like, "Oh my god, like why would you?" I'm like, "Well, you've been acting.
why are
like
you
this.
attacking
What's
me? And I'm
going
like,
on,
babe,
Do
you
you know
looked
what I
a
mean?
customer. Like, let's not.
You know, that's
You
it.
broke
Let's
the
have a
customer's
conversation
wrist
about
giving
it.
them a lap dance. Like, maybe just, you know. Oh, I
But
saw
this
that
is
happen.
wild. You went through my stuff, so like I'm gonna make you come to a dinner party with my ex-boyfriend.
Yeah,
now?
it was
Literally,
like-
I remember
Okay.
watching the scene and being like, okay, I'm not sure about you right now.
I
'cause,
didn't
like,
even like
that's
put
not
that.
the way to deal
I
with
didn't put
this.
like 2 and 2 together because like I didn't think Michael knew like Harrison's friends, but then like now that y'all are mentioning it, I'm like, that's really shitty. Like that's
Yeah.
100%.
And we'll get into why that's really shitty more so.
But
in a
until
little
then,
bit.
Marianne is still here.
What's she doing now?
She's at the bar singing.
She's gone to the bar. She's at Ida's bar, which is, you know, Bob the drag queen's character's bar.
What's Bob the drag queen's name? And this is Ida Beth.
I love it.
One
love
of
it when
my
she goes-
notes. Sorry, but one of my notes was like half of this show is written by a 40-year-old white person, and the other half is completely written by Gen Z. I was like, I can't like.
It's so funny. It's so funny. When I don't know when it was at this scene or earlier in the show, when Marianne walks into the bar and meets Ida for the first time, and Shauna's like, "Oh, this is Marianne," and Bob's like, "How are you?"
Yes, she
I
said.
lived.
I like in this scene where Marianne walks into the bar and she goes, Ida goes, "Now this is just stalking."
Right?
And I was like,
Right?
okay.
100%.
Bob, how much you want to
100%.
bet? Bob read the script and was like, I'm just gonna improv. Like,
Yeah.
Improv.
It feels like it, for
yeah.
sure.
So Marianne is at this bar. She's like having a midlife crisis, and she ends up like they get Marianne in some form of drags loosely.
Very loose term.
Loose.
A bridal outfit.
Loose. And then she gets up on stage and she's kind of singing, and the crowd kind of doesn't know what to make of it because it's a blonde woman in a Kohl's Marshall's blouse, singing. What was the song?
I don't even know.
Was it Melissa Etheridge?
I think
Yeah,
so.
it was something by
Come
Melissa
to
Etheridge.
my window.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
Come to my window.
Home too. Yeah, that's it.
And so when she gets off the stage, she's sitting with Ida and Shauna, and Marianne kind of doesn't know what to make of it because she's from Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I can say that because Bridgeport is rough.
I wonder if she knows Robin Fierce and Amethyst.
Marianne is sitting at the bar with Shauna and Ida, and they kind of get onto this thing about like female empowerment and how like this sort of space is so valuable and so needed, especially for like female presenting people, like just women, like in
100%.
general. Yeah, like it's so important. So like, how do you think female like empowerment in spaces like this have developed?
Well, I think it's interesting because Marianne starts like in that part of the scene talking about how feminism was different in her day, and now there's this new definition of feminism. And I think I've had many discussions about this, and it's like what somebody finds feminine or what somebody finds empowering is nobody else's business.
That part.
Do you know what I mean? So like if you feel feminine by putting on glam makeup and a gown and heels and looking hot and sexy, more power to you. But if you feel feminine, wearing something very neutral, something very genderless, whatever, and being very serious and, being, presenting yourself that way, then that's great too, right? So I don't think that there's like an actual definition of it, but I think for me, having spaces like that where you can express yourself in any way, shape, or form and show what feminism is to you is super, super important. And I think people have come a long way in what their definition of like feminism is.
Yeah.
No, totally.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. I think in any community in general, that's a big thing, that feminism has become a huge thing. But I also think specifically in the, not even just the LGBTQ community, but I think more specifically the drag community and that kind of stuff too, and how people are becoming more accepting of the fact that, women are doing drag and are killing it at doing drag. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Thank you, Sigourney Beaver.
But I think that is something that back in sometimes wouldn't have been accepted, wouldn't have been okay. And so now we're starting to kind of get that empowerment of feminism in that kind of area as well too. So I think that that's really cool.
Absolutely. Honestly, everyone just mind your business. Like, let people do what they want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's so funny that like people just like feel the need to like insert their opinion on what somebody else finds enjoyable. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it's wild to me. Like at the basis, like let people do what they want to do. That's
okay, unless
happy,
it's like sports,
and it's not
sports. I do not get.
Wow, I mean. That's for a different podcast. That's not for today.
Yeah, right? That's not for our podcast.
We are so not straight podcast. If we remove the not and we are so straight, then we can talk about sports.
I don't. So March Madness, you guys, am I right? I don't.
Bro, do you want to go down to the basketball court?
I was gonna say, people ask me if I have a straight voice, and I'm like, what's up, bro? And they're like, no, just be gay. Go back.
I die. I do a good straight boy, though. I do a good straight boy. I can
with that bus driver wig, you can do it.
Listen, DJ. When I was just in Ottawa, I stayed with a friend of mine. You are gonna get whooped. Listen. I'm not coming back no more. But no, I went
What
to.
if I
went to
just kick DJ off? Then will you come back?
Okay, bye.
I'll co-host. I got
There you
this.
go.
So just like on the poster, just scribble out my face in giant red mark. Put like the little this symbol on it, and just like Mya Foxx is now co-hosting We Are So Not Straight.
I already
Everybody.
did that with when Nathaniel came and helped me when
Oh,
when
you
he
did.
came
You
to
did
you
do
that one
that.
time. I spray painted your face out and I put Nathaniel at the bottom.
Dying dead.
Okay,
Well,
so
cut back to our main characters.
Yeah, I was about to say, back to what was happening. So we cut back to Ben and Michael, who
Everyone's
are
favorite
at
relationship.
the dinner party, as aforementioned dinner party,
Ooh.
which we find out is comprised of, DJ wrote, higher middle-aged white men.
Yeah.
Which is basically a good explanation
Correct.
of it. And while they're sitting at the dinner party, one of them uses the T slur, and Ben politely explains why we don't just throw that word around, and the guests seem pretty offended by Ben speaking up at this point.
And they used their defense as like, well, we're old, and that was fine back in my day at the Studio 54, and I'm like, girl, please, take your shriveled raisin dick and leave my presence. Thank you.
Period. I think it's also important to mention that Michael does nothing this entire time. That
Literally, he just sits there like
table.
Yeah.
Like Ben is being spit roasted, and not in the good way, by these like old. Also, Ben is like the only like person of color there.
Yes, that is also key to announce as well.
There is so this scene is literally why I picked this episode. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. And I have to say, and this is my opinion, and I appreciate like everybody, you guys let me know what you think. But I think that Ben is right, and the men at the table are right, and Ben is wrong, and the men at the table are wrong. Okay. They both are. We're in this weird spot, right?
Very.
So I think you have this dynamic of you've got these older queer men who have lived through the AIDS epidemic, that have buried probably hundreds of their friends throughout this period of time. And then you have this newer gay man who lives in a different era, and they're all coming here with different opinions on what it means to be queer and what it means to be what's acceptable as a queer person. And what I love about this scene is there's no clear answer here for me, because obviously using the T slur, and that's not something that I would ever use. I don't feel comfortable doing that, and we all know that is not something that is acceptable in today's world, right? And Ben, I think, is very right in calling that out. However, you have this group of men who have really laid the foundation, have done the work, have done the protests, have buried their friends, have done all the things that are necessary for us as queer people today to have the privileges that we do, right? And they're using jargon, or they're using words amongst themselves that were acceptable back in the day, that, in their mind, they're not being homophobic, or they're not being whatever. And for somebody who's newer, that has all of the benefits that because of the work that they've done, come in and then try to chastise them, does feel a little disrespectful in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like you get to be who you are today. You get to be with an HIV positive person and not have to worry about anything because of the work that we've done decades ago. And you're going to come at me because I've said this, and you're going to make it seem like I'm being transphobic or homophobic, when that may not be the attention, but it's still not okay. It's a very interesting dynamic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know where I fall. I don't necessarily agree with one or the other, but I think it's really interesting because this doesn't often happen. Because for us as queer people, there is a whole generation of people that are just missing. They don't exist. They've died. You know what I mean? Because of what's happened in the past. So you don't often get to see this happening. And for me personally, I mentioned before, I was on the AIDS Coalition board with Nova Scotia for a while, and I got to meet some older queer men for the first time and actually get to hear their stories. A lot of them were HIV positive, and get to hear this kind of firsthand experience. And then, wow, some of the things that we get caught up on in terms of, verbiage and semantics and, talking about visibility and acceptance, and all of these things are very important to us. But when you look at it versus life and death and burying your friends, they're very different things. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like, yes, they are older, and yes, like we as like younger people do get to live in a, well, the world is still kind of fucked. Thank you, Tennessee. We still yes, we have it so much better, but we are still continuing to fucking fight and claw through. So it's like I feel like the older group got defensive right away and kind of didn't take the time to they can speak their opinion, or not opinion, they can speak their
Right.
facts and their truth and say we lived through this, but also say, hey, what times have changed, how can we use our pillar and kind of like use that to move forward.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's
I was
fair.
thinking the
Yeah.
same thing. I think that there was a discussion being missed there. I think
Yeah.
it was immediately both of them got very defensive on either end, and Ben was saying I'm right on this, and they were saying I'm right on this, and I think that there was discussion to be able to be had of like, I understand how you're feeling,
Yes.
and I understand this, but also this is how I feel, and it was the missed
Yeah.
opportunity
It was
of
literally
discussion
just a thing
between
of
the two.
I felt, and you never get anywhere arguing that I felt.
Totally. Totally. And I think, to your point, it's Ben came in and kind of, this isn't acceptable and we don't use this and da 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 da. But there was not necessarily a question there or trying to understand why that was happening. So I think that, I think that speaks to kind of a larger issue. And like you talk about, like you bring up Tennessee DJ, and like there's just what winds up happening in today's world is you just have two sides yelling at each other.
That
And
don't,
they don't listen. Do you know what I mean? But you need to get to this middle ground. And in order to converse at that middle ground, you need to be able to handle being offended by what the other person is saying, to be able to have a discussion. Do you know what I mean? So if somebody is saying something that is, I don't know if it's homophobic or it's transphobic or it's whatever, being able to not just yell a slur back at the other person or say that you're this or say that you're that, I think has a lot of value. And just saying, why do you think that? And explaining it, you can get to the point of saying that, yes, this is transphobic and this shouldn't be accepted. But I think as soon as you put that wall up, there's no more discussion. So then all you have is just two groups of people that are mad at each other, and you're not finding any common ground. You're not convincing anybody. It's not positive to the movement that you're trying to support. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you guys saw, I did like a drag queen story time recently, a few months back or a few weeks back. And I had, I was called a groomer, I was called a child abuser, I was called all these different things, right? And I ended up in a discussion with a woman on Facebook, because I'm old, who, was just saying like, I have no problem with trans people or whatever, but like, why do drag queens need to read to children and da 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 da, and like, they're saying all this stuff. And I put a response, and she replied to me and said like, thank you for not like stooping down and calling me names. Like, I'm honestly trying to understand, and like, this is how I was brought up, and this is what I see in my media and all this kind of stuff, and like, this is this person's truth. And we actually were able to have a productive discussion about it. And like, I changed her opinion because I didn't immediately go in with like, well, you're a bigot and you're a transphobe and I have no time for you. I think it's like trying to understand the other person. And I think most people, regardless of like what side of the argument you're on, probably have good intentions. Like, there's a very small group of people that are actually hateful and like want to see the worst and all that kind of stuff. Most people have good intentions, but it's about trying to like meet them where they're at and trying to explain it. Not everybody has the emotional capacity to be able to do that, but I think, to your point, there needs to be more discussion about these things, because it's not always black and white,
Yeah. Well, I think because we are in a different time than some other people. I mean, I live with my grandparents, who I love very dearly, but a lot of the time, something that they grew up with being okay nowadays is not okay to me. And so I've come to have that discussion with them of being like, I understand that you, at the time that you were doing this and whatever is okay with you, nowadays, I don't feel that that is appropriate in my
100%.
way of living, whatever. And it comes with having that understanding with each other and being able to discuss things and not just, going at it. So
yeah, it's like
100%.
Also,
I think you bring up a great point. Like, previous generation, it's like I look at like my own family, right? And one of my grandmothers is like literally the most loving person ever, will give you the shirt off her back, like all of those types of things. But she lives in rural Nova Scotia. You know, her idea of fun is going to the Legion on the weekend with her friends, and like, you know, her circle, like she is not in any type of woke circle. So the odd time she will use an outdated term, and I correct her. She's like, "Oh my god, no problem," like,
Yes.
and she starts using it, and it's fine. But what I think about is if like she were to use that in public or said something that was out of date, and somebody were to come at her and say, "You're a this, you're a that, you're a this, you're a that," which is so far from the truth. I think you need to give people the time of day to be able to be educated and change their opinion and be able to adjust and all of those types of things. And I think we're just too quick to, "You're this." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like you did mention, there are groups, but like sometimes some people just refuse and don't want
Right.
to change, or they are so
Yeah.
just inundated with themselves that like they don't see a need to change, and it's like that kind of
I'm with
complicates
them.
thing, but the open
Yeah.
dialogue like statement still stands, you know?
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. There is, so I remember this and I forget where it comes from, but it's like I think it's, you know, you can use like a bell curve if you're into math. Here I am. I can't. But like you've got 20%
I think I
of
asked my
people that are
professor to do that a couple of times. I was like, can you just like curve my grade a little
right?
bit?
But like you've got 20% of people that are always going to believe this. You've got 20% of people that are always going to believe the opposite, and you've got 60% of people that are somewhere in the middle. Do you know what I mean? For
Wait,
me,
where's the other 20?
that's
DJ,
20,
20, 20,
60.
and 60. That's 100.
Bless his heart. God love him.
Oh no,
I
I was
can't,
counting
dude.
60 plus 2.
I'm dead. But my focus is on that 60 that's in the middle. Do you know what I mean? That 20%, to your point, there's some people that don't want to change, that don't want to hear anything. And honestly, I don't have time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. We don't want to focus on those people. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's those other people that it's like, let's educate people. And think of like yourselves, like how have you changed your opinion on, you know, the queer community, even yourselves, is like coming out and being queer and accepting yourself and being part of, you know, different scenes and stuff like that. I know I have. I've changed quite a bit, and so have, you know, so many people. So I think like this scene is really, really important because the two of them just look at each other. You think this, you think that. I don't want anything to do with you. But they're both kind of right and they're both kind of wrong. You know what I mean? It's interesting. Yeah.
Totally.
So
we really got real deep in there.
We
but yeah.
did.
We
No, but that's
did.
like so like good. Like
That's what we want to do with this season of the podcast,
Yeah.
though. That's part of the reason that we wanted to do this kind of version, is because we think it's going to open a lot of dialogue that people like to try to avoid or try to skip over, and we think that
we're like, no, ma'am, we are
with the
here.
type of platform that we try to make and being positive and kind of seeing different sides of different things, we think that we'd be able to have a conversation that would be fair to both sides of different conversations and not just be one-sided on things. And so that's something that we want to do with this season of the podcast for sure.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Michael and Ben end up leaving and basically having like a shrunk down version of like the discussion we just had, where they're like, well, you know, like they're trying, because now it's just the two people, and they're like trying to like, and Ben expresses that Michael literally sat there and did nothing with his thumb up his butt,
right?
Like,
which is true, he did.
Yeah.
But I think he was also in an awkward spot too, because
I
think that he kind of saw it the way we did, where like one was right and one was right and one was wrong and one was wrong, and so he didn't really know where to go. And like a lot of people would say, oh, he should have defended Ben, like that's,
but not like defend, but like mediate more.
Well, but mediate and deal with the situation. But I think again at that point he was in the middle, kind of like, where do I go, kind of thing.
Totally. And I think it's a difficult thing, because like you notice like the conversation was going and like people kept trying to like divert it, like let's go into the other room and have a drink. Like it kept, you know what I mean? They kept trying to do that. So I think people didn't want to go there. And then it got to a point where I was like, okay, this is happening. And then, you know, I think it's awkward.
Spoke up.
That's what I'm saying. And like, again, we didn't talk about this, but the dynamic again of Ben being the only person of color in the room with a bunch of white people. and the youngest and all that kind of stuff. And there's this kind of feeling of like inferiority, which is also not okay. You know what I mean? The young thing is one thing, but this dynamic of having these group, not just one, this group of white men saying, you don't know anything, this, that, and the other. Like, that's also not okay. You know, like there's so many levels to this scene. And I think like we can honestly sit here and talk like for 2 hours about it. Yeah.
Totally.
So like they ultimately kind of have like this little like, no, we're fine, like whatever, like yeah, I love you. And then the Lyft driver pulls up and it's like and kills the mood again.
They end up making up basically.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I felt that it was a little too quick.
Yeah, it's a little like
agreed.
But it's a TV show, like so they kind of gotta like, and
it's a TV show,
house.
obviously. But like in like real life, in that kind of situation, I feel like it would have taken longer for, at least for Ben, on Ben's side, for Ben to, you know, have forgiveness in his heart for Michael for not like helping him in that situation. So, but I understood where they were going with it, and I appreciated the fact that they did make up at the end of this conversation.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
So after we've finished the conversation with Michael and Ben and they've made up, we end up going back over to Shauna and Mary Ann, and they're discussing the possibility of a stunt being behind Anna selling the property, which, like, obviously we know as viewers is the case. But I mean, at that point, they don't know anything that has been going on. They don't know about the letters. They don't know anything in that kind of way as well either. So that's kind of the awkwardness of that, where they're finally figuring things out, that there might be something going on.
Yeah. I feel like it's a Scooby-Doo like setup. Like they give you like an obvious villain, but then it's not the obvious villain, and they're just like a gas station employee or something. Then it's like something completely out of left field, like the call is coming from inside the house. It could fully well be Mary Ann.
It could be.
Can you imagine?
I don't trust anyone in a
They have
Marshall's
this whole
blouse.
thing. They have this whole thing about them all forgiving Mary Ann, and then all of a sudden she's the villain.
It's me. Right? Hi, I'm the problem. It's my Marshall's blouse. Michaela, that's your new drag name. Marshall's blouse.
Nice.
Wait, you're Marshall's blouse and I'm Jennifer's shoe.
Yes.
I love
that. So they kind of end off the episode on like a weird tone, but it's Jake moving back home because we have to put him into the plot somewhere, and they were like, put him on the end.
Right.
And so
add him in.
Yeah. So with Jake being trans, we see his family kind of like not really, I don't want to say accepting it. Like they accept it, but they just like they don't know how to like
it's the I'll accept you, but I don't have to like it kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think it's
right.
Like that's the best way I can explain it, because like they accept it in the form of like, you know, using the proper pronouns and stuff like that and everything.
And the pictures from like pre-transition, his sister throws a fucking fit about that. Which, by the way, I would slap this sister, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not that mean.
Right.
But that's kind of what we see there is yeah, it's accepted, but it's not really accepted. It's I'm trying, but I'm not trying.
Wasn't there like a bit about the mom saying like washing dishes aren't for you anymore?
That's later. That's in episode 5.
Okay, well anyway, I'm gonna bring it up because like it's not like a major plot point, but it is prevalent to the thing. Like the mom basically tells Jake to go in and like watch soccer with like the other men of the family, and some of them, like one of them, I don't know his name, he's just like some random uncle, and he's like start acting like a real man or something along those lines. Which
No, well, and I think it was the previous episode when I think Jake and Margot are still together and they go to the mother's house.
The gender reveal.
And
the gender
reveal. That's right. And then the mother says something about like, oh, isn't it funny how you're just like a normal couple now? Like there's a woman and a man. It's like there's all of these like little microaggression things that are happening, and it's wild, right? And like you see this a lot in the lesbian community. And I remember like some older shows. I forget what show it was. But there was, you know, I remember there was this character on this older show who was, you know, was originally portrayed as a lesbian and ended up coming out as a trans man. And then they were like ousted from the lesbian community because they weren't a woman anymore. And like, there's this whole thing, right, that trans people have to go through. And people think that it's just with the straight community, but it's also within the queer community as well, right? You switch letters and now all of a sudden you're not part of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you realize you're a different letter. And yeah, it's challenging. And I mean, like, I think in the previous episode too, like Margot talks about, like, you know, I've been here for you throughout your entire transition and how you feel in your body, but what about me through all of this? And we don't talk about that sometimes, right? Like, what is the effect on the other partner? So yeah, that's what I love so much about the show is like, it really plays in this gray area of like, I didn't see it from this perspective, or wait a minute, things aren't so black and white, right? It's interesting.
It's very much like Margot's character is like an interesting one, and like it goes back to this like idea of like you're not entirely right, you're not entirely wrong, because like Margot, like yes, you are allowed to feel a little like discarded. Well, I'm not gonna say allowed, like, because allowed implies like something is wrong, which like it's not. But like you can feel this type of way, but like also you have to like consider that this person is trans now, and like that's their truth and that's their identity. So like you have to kind of, you know, like it's that weird like area, and it's really interesting. It's a very, very good show. Speaking of, if y'all have Netflix, it's available in the US, it's available in Canada, probably available everywhere else. It's like the third thing that comes up when you
to wrap up, because obviously that brings us to the end of the episode. So I was gonna say, to wrap up the episode, maybe asking Maya, why should people watch the rest of the season? Because obviously, like, we've talked through the episodes. Well, we did our little recap of episode 1 to 3, and then obviously we just talked through episode 4.
Right.
So why should people continue watching the show?
I think it's a really interesting show. And again, you know, we talked about it a little bit. You know, you've got this kind of idea of old and new in the queer community and changing times and all of this kind of stuff. But you have so many characters that I think the 2S LGBTQ plus community can identify with, right? You have trans characters, you have non-binary characters, you've got, you know, gays, lesbians, like everything is in there. And I feel like the stories are very authentic. Like, we're not the supporting character like we see in a lot of straight programming. Do you know what I mean? We're not coming in for comic relief. It is queer stories, right?
Unless you're
and I think, unless you're, I love it. I love it. I love it. But it's told from like a first person perspective. So I know when I watched the whole series, I could really empathize with it. And there's a lot of themes that, like, whether it was something that happened to me or something that happened to a friend, and we don't often get to see that in television, right? And I think we really get to explore a lot of queer issues from a number of different perspectives. And it makes you really think. And I think, you know, for us, like I mentioned, because of things like the AIDS pandemic or AIDS epidemic, and you know, just not knowing our history, we don't often get to connect with older members of our community, and this show allows us to see that perspective. And I think that's so important and valuable, because it gives us context for why we are where we're at today, where we're going, where we came from, all of those types of things. So I really enjoyed it, and honestly, like, the ending. Just watch the ending.
Michaela and I are like, we are gonna get through it. I am. Hold on, I can tell you how much of the way I am through episode 6.
I'm nowhere way through the episode 6. I finished episode 5 last night, so that's where I'm at.
Because like I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish it. And at first, I like found it a little hard to watch because I was like, oh shit! Oh my god, my phone is connected to my downstairs TV. That's really great.
Dangerous.
Yeah, I have like 30 more minutes of episode 6, so go watch it. But please watch it. It's only like 10 episodes.
Did it do the flashback yet? Anna's flashback? No. Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, you guys need to like you both need to like message me when like as you watch the show, and I hope you are actually enjoying it because I
no, I am now because now I'm like invested in the story.
We're very invested in the story now, so we have to know what's gonna happen, especially since we don't like this creepy guy and he's freaking me out. So I just want to know what's gonna happen with him. So
yeah.
Right.
But yes. Anyways, so I think that pretty much brings us to the end of this episode. But Maya, where can everybody find you?
Ooh, Instagram is the best way to find me. So it's at Mya Foxx _HFX. I still don't know who the girl is that stole my original handle. If y'all know,
You should
let me
message her and
know.
be like, or them and be like,
Girl, they've got one follower. Like, they made like a dummy account.
if it's like
kind
a
of
fan
thing.
account, they should give you your name.
No, it's not.
Give Maya her username back, please.
Please, I want my username. So Instagram, you can also find me on TikTok, and that is just at Mya Foxx. So yes, thank you so much for having me back. I love chatting with you all, and this is a good episode, y'all. We got a little shady and everything. I'm here for it.
I got a little shady. I'm gonna get canceled after this.
DJ's gonna get canceled, but that's okay because I got Maya to cover for him. So
oh my god.
I got you. I will fill in.
Alrighty. We want to thank you so much for coming back on the podcast, and we hope that everything that you do in the future is successful and makes you happy.
Thank you so much, my love. Love you guys. Bye.
Alrighty, well, I hope you all enjoyed our first episode of season 3. It was so fun getting to catch up with Maya again and talk about a show that I really hadn't heard of, but I ended up finishing it and it was really good. That being said, go watch it. It's actually a really good watch. It's only 10 episodes. They're an hour long. And it's a really, really good show. Especially given our audience. It's very much worth it.
Yeah, we both finished it, so
yeah.
Very good. It was we were so addicted to it we had to finish it.
It was fully 4 a.m. and I was that sort of thing. But yeah, I think that kind of covers everything. Again, we're so excited to be back, but I hope you all have an amazing rest of your time zone.
Wait, DJ.
Yeah, Michaela.
You forgot to tell everybody about our socials.
I know. Do you want to tell them about it?
Sure. So our Instagram is We Are So Not Straight Pod. Our Twitter is Not Straight Pod. Our TikTok, which I know you're gonna say, Michaela, you keep saying you're gonna post videos on there. Well, guess what, everyone?
Listen,
people. I finally found my little drive that has all of my season 1 footage on it. So guess who's actually gonna be able to edit some things together now? Finally. Thank you, Grandpa, for picking it up off the ground when you found it there, because I couldn't find it. But anyways, not the point. I now have the footage. I will be making some more TikToks. So please go follow us on there. It's We Are So Not Straight Pod, just like our Instagram. I made it super easy for you to find us. So go give us a follow on there. And yeah, do that. Our YouTube channel, which is where you are right now. So if you don't know where you are right now, you should probably go and, hug a friend, because that's really weird that you don't know that. Yeah, hug a friend. Go hug a friend, okay? If you don't know where you're at, go hug a friend. I was going to say go hug a tree, but then I thought that wasn't right.
Go touch some grass.
Go touch some grass. No, I'm not going to say that. Yeah, anyways, so yeah, our YouTube channel is where you are right now. You can go check out all of our videos from season 1 and 2 on here, as well as obviously the episode that you're watching right now, and it will be all the rest of the episodes of season 3 will be on here as well. Please go subscribe to us. Give us some thumbs up on our videos, comment on our videos. We like to go check the comments. So if you're commenting on those videos, you will get a response, most likely from either DJ or myself. So please go and do that. We would really appreciate it. We're trying to get more people listening to us on YouTube. We think it's really important that people are getting all of the experience. That sounds so terrible. The entire experience.
Oh, God. My experience is I don't know.
But we think it's really cool that we're not only an audio podcast, we're also a video podcast for people who want to watch the video and, have that experience of hearing us talk and seeing our beautiful faces. So please go check that out. We've also talked about some really cool things in our last couple seasons with our guests there. So you want to go check those out, do that, because it's great listening.
And it's free.
Also, it's free. It's free entertainment. So go check it out. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, fits of rage, or suggestions, you can email us at wearesonotstraight@gmail.com. All this information will be down in the description box below. I think that about covers it, so DJ, you can finish the outro now.
Okay. Also, don't forget, we will be putting resources that are relevant to the topic that we discussed in the podcast, so look out for those. That's the last thing, so I hope you all have a fantabulous rest of your day, and we will see you next week. Mwah. Bye.
Bye!